Yeah, just stay away from me. Okay, guys, we are gonna get started. The weather's not looking the best, so we wanna, answer as many questions as possible. I am taking off my mask, but I'm staying away from people because as I talk, I breathe it in, and then I smother myself, and it's just not good. So, if you were here last time, then, the slideshow will probably look very familiar to you. If you weren't here last time, then, it'll be brand new. But regardless, I appreciate all of you coming to learn more about Porter County Vote Center Plan. I'm Jessica Bailey, your clerk, and Sunday Shona, the Director of Elections, and Becky Roush, the Assistant Director of Elections. So if you have questions at any time, just feel free. We'll try to answer them the best we can. If not, we will add them to our list to add to the slideshow next time and get answers for you. But in any case, this is the Porter County Votes Anywhere second community input meeting, and thank you again for coming. We have various members for the committee, and those people include election administrators, IT professional, county chairman designees, the county commissioners designee, county council members, experienced poll workers, and the general public. All input and all questions are important, especially as we're formalizing this plan. But if you haven't been here or you're not familiar with it, part of the questions that you're going to have is, what is a vote center county? So a vote center county is where on election day you can vote anywhere. Right now you're pigeonholed to a specific precinct on election day, but the 28 days before election you can vote anywhere you want. This makes it a more consistent plan. The early vote period, the 28 days before, you can vote at any of those sites. On election day you can also vote at any location that's convenient for you. Why is there a need to change? There's various reasons to change. One is convenience. If you live in South County, but you work in North County, you may not end up voting on election day because it's not convenient for you. You may be leaving before it's time to get to your polling location. So this will help eliminate that problem. And we also have a problem with voters who go to the wrong precinct, whether that's they've moved or they've gone to they've had to have their change of precincts like we recently had to do. The state made us re-precinct a little bit. So in instances of that, they just see a polling location and they live there and they think that they can vote there, but they can't, and so people are turned around away and they're having to go to a different location. So this vote center plan would eliminate that. And we're also trying as much as we can, as we have the last few years, we're trying to increase voter turnout. In the last election cycle, which election cycles are a 4-year cycle, the average turnout was only 33%. So that tells us that having to go to a specific location isn't working, especially as early vote numbers are rising. So where? Currently, in the last election, we had 61 polling locations, but each person had to go to a specific one. With the vote center county, again, you can go to any location that's convenient to you, and we're proposing currently 44 polling locations on election day that someone would have the opportunity to go to. Our vote centers common. They're becoming more common. 55 of the 92 counties are currently vote center counties, and that is with 6 of them being approved in 2021. There are more counties in 2022 looking to move to vote center counties. I don't have the exact number. We're just a couple days in, but I can tell you my clerk's email thread has been blowing up about it. So it is something still being considered by other counties. Again, we'll touch on things multiple times during this presentation, and we as an election board want to be consistent in the way people vote. So we're telling you, vote early. You can go to any of these locations. We want to be able to say that on election day as well. We want to be able to say, go to any of these locations, whatever is convenient for you, just vote. Every vote is important. Every vote should be counted. And so if we knock out the provisionals, we not for voting in the wrong area, plus we're consistent in the way people are allowed to vote in Porter County, we think that it will increase. Skipped all over that one. Accessibility, convenience. Will your polling location change? Possibly, but it gives you more options. So if your polling location, one of the proposed sites, that would be changing would be my polling location. It's not used very much, and it's very close to another polling location that is, ADA accessible and maintained at the public level, so we don't have to worry about, whether the church has had a chance to update things or whether they haven't. It's already done because it's a public building. So where my polling location would be going away, there's another one less than half a mile away from it that it just makes sense to have that location instead. So there's a possibility of it, but the options that you would have to go to any polling location, outweighs, the chance that your current location may not be there. I know it's hard to see, but this is a list of all the townships and the polling locations and their addresses. With the map next to it, there is a map laying on the table over there that I encourage you to take a look at. That is, it showcases all 44 locations, and as you can see, there are some bare spots in here, you know, like around here or here, however, and up at north that I can't reach, but those are industry or farmland or residential. We have looked for buildings, we have driven the routes, we have Google mapped it, satellite mapped it, we've looked all over, and there just isn't another location in those areas.
Or the people in those locations are already used to going to the location.
Exactly.
That
Hebron has voted at one location for a number of years. It's just that location has changed numerous times, but it has been continuously one. So there are steps that need to be taken in order to become a vote center county, and part of that is the process that we're doing right now. We needed approval from the Board of Elections and Registration, and we approved that at our last meeting. We need to form a vote center plan, which is part of what we're in the process of doing right now. We're gathering community input, and things like that. After we gather all of that input, we have one more informational session after this, and then at the January election board meeting, we will go in detail for what the plan is. And that's, at that point in time, the election board will vote to approve the plan as it's written, and then it will be open for 30 days for public written comment. So right now you can give verbal comment. Once the plan is published and approved at the next meeting, the comment must be in written form, whether it's email or letter or whatever the case may be. From that case, the public comment will be open for 30 days. The election board will review those comments, possibly amend the plan, and vote to approve the final plan. After that, we will get on the council and commissioner agenda and go before those boards for them to also approve the plan. The plan has to be unanimously approved from the Board of Election and Registration, and just an approval from the other two entities. After that, we have to file the plan with the Indiana Election Division. So that's the steps that we need to take in order to move to a vote center county, but there's also some processes that we need to do. We need to have electronic poll books. We already have those. That was taken care of with the election equipment purchase in 2019. Prior to that, we used electronic poll books only during early vote, but since then we've already been using them at all of our polling locations on election day. So poll workers are used to seeing them, voters are used to seeing them. That process has already been taken care of. We need vote center accessible equipment. Again, we purchased modern equipment in 2019, and that was taken care of. We need to have informational marketing plan for voters. All the voters need to know that we are making this change, so their election polling day location may change. We will send out letters, we'll send out postcards, we'll do a whole lot of things for that. And then training for poll workers, we do that each election for both the general and the primary. Anyone who's a poll worker has to automatically go through an in-person training. So we would just be updating that training as we do every time. This is what our electronic poll book looks like. So anyone who's checked in on election day or early vote, this is the same process that it'll go through. On early vote, every voter from the state is in there and you can be checked in. However, on election day, you have to be a voter of that precinct to be able to be checked in on that poll book. If not, they can look. You're still in the poll book. They can just tell you where you need to go. That, again, would change because you'd be able to vote regardless of where, what precinct you're in. This is our election day equipment. We have the express vote. which is the top one. That's just a marking device, so that took the place of your pencil. And then the next one is the DS200. That is our tabulating equipment. And again, it's the same as what would be used currently when we have the highway department and the facilities department that are helping us load our machines. We have to load 123 of those and disperse them throughout election day. For Vote Center County, it can be that main change is that piece of equipment could be coded for all the precincts, and so we would only have to distribute the amount of polling locations that we have. So delivering 123, delivering 44. It would be a lot easier on our fantastic crews to only have to do that. I did skip a step on the express vote. Currently for early voting, those machines are coded for the entire county, so which is why you can go to every single one of them. During 2020, when we had unprecedented numbers of people wanting to vote early, it would have been fantastic to be able to grab one of those other machines that we had in the equipment room and just shove it out there and try to push those lines through a little bit faster. We couldn't. Our hands were tied because on election day currently, those, just like the DS200s, are coded per precinct. So we can't just take it and move it somewhere else. Whereas if we were a Vote Center County, all of those machines would be coded for the entire county, and it would be done during early vote. So if we needed extra machines on early vote, we can just pull them and we can add more machines. If one polling location is seeing a huge turnout, we can again take machines from one that's not having a huge turnout and move machines around in order to fulfill the voters' experience to make it positive, so they're not waiting. In 2020 early vote, they were wrapped around the buildings, waiting an hour plus, and we could have alleviated that.
We also lost a lot of polling locations in 2020, so there was a lot of last-minute changes, unfortunately, for some of the voters, to where we had to find new polling locations for them because everything is precinct-based. If it wasn't precinct-based, we would have been able to just have shut down that polling location, and they would have been able to be dispersed to any of the polling locations within the county, causing less confusion for them, being moved around, 500 times and being sent 10,000 different letters with different locations on it, which I'm sure they did not appreciate, especially those poor Boone voters that it happened to today.
Yes.
But with it being a Vote Center County, they could have gone to any of the polling locations, and it would have helped a little bit with the confusion for the voters.
Like I mentioned before, we need a marketing campaign. With 2020, when we showcased the Vote-Mobile, we included early vote and Vote-Mobile locations into the tax bills. A lot of people were very happy to see that. I didn't realize that many people opened their tax bill. Once it's included in your mortgage, a lot of people don't pay attention to it anymore, but they do. So if that's something that we want to do, we want to partner with the local chambers of commerce and use their e-blast systems. Also, the e-blast system, for those of you who don't know what an e-blast is, it's those newsletters you get in your email because you sign up for one organization or another. We have our own through the elections and registration, but we also will use the Expo Center, Memorial Opera House. We will look to the county chairman to help give this information out to their candidates and share that. It'll be on the Porter County website. We will send postcards to all registered voters. We'll look at doing advertisements at movie theaters, utilize the Life sites, Portage Life, Valpo Life, Northwest Indiana Life, print media, billboards, social media, and again, with public information sessions. As I said before, training, we already do training for every election. This training goes over new legislation, updated procedures, equipment instruction, and we will just be, again, adding to them so the clerks are used to seeing, or when they're used to seeing certain precincts, to let them know, no, you guys don't have to be separated. You can take anyone, just let them come in. Same check-in process as always that we've been using. You just get to see more people, more faces. It won't be the same ones that you're used to seeing. Since 2019, this office has had a lot of growth and innovation. We're very lucky to have such a progressive election board and staff. We have purchased new accessible and adaptive voting equipment. This has enhanced the voter experience quite well. We've established central counting process to ensure suitable and efficient processing of absentee ballots. They're not delivered to the polling locations anymore. Now we count them at a central location, and we use a really cool high-powered machine to help us count that.
Sounds like a jet engine.
It really does.
Love it.
It's pretty amazing. In 2020, we established VoteMobile and increased voter turnout, as well as dispersed the crowds during the global pandemic to increase people understanding that it is safe to still vote. In 2021, the election officials were trained in coding the election, and this will assist in reducing the cost if we ever need to recode machines. So, as Sunday mentioned before, we had to change a lot of polling locations last minute during the pandemic, and this is no fault of those polling locations, but if they're not open to their current clientele, we cannot ask them to be open to strangers. And unfortunately, that's where a lot of change happened. Buildings were closed, and therefore we needed to move, and that was a substantial cost to the county because we had to recode those machines that had already been coded. And then 2022, we're hoping to continue changing and growing and establishing vote centers. Feedback from the last meeting that we had, we were asked to see if we could have, like on a Google map or something, where a pin would drop and you'd be like, oh, you have a polling location 5 minutes from you, do you want directions? Our IT professional looked into that, and unfortunately it's not available at that time, but we are still working with GIS from the county to see if there's something that we can do along those lines. Right now we would have to make our own app for that, and while it's possible, trying to get the amount of people to download the app and use it, it just may not, it may not be fruitful for this year. So now it's your turn. What questions do you guys have? Jesse?
So, I have a couple of questions. One is the legislation which enables the voting centers, and I think it was from 2011, does that mandate based on population of a county, how many voting centers there has to be? Is there a minimum? So
yes.
Conceivably, if there's not a minimum, we can say, okay, there's going to be one voting center in Porter County and South.
No, it's one, yes, it's 1 per 10,000 voters?
Yeah, 1 per 10,000.
Yeah, 1 per 10,000, so the lowest,
We only have to have 13,
right.
but we don't want to do that.
But technically, we only have to have 13.
We only have to have 13, correct.
But if we start at 2 at 44, we can't implement it at 44 and then just next year go down to 13. Like, that's not ever going.
Is that in the legislation, though?
Currently, all vote center locations have to be unanimously approved by the election board.
And the election board has no desire to downsize drastically.
They are looking for a majority. I mean, let's be honest here. They are the legislation is looking to change it from unanimous to a majority. It has not passed yet. Will it pass? It's quite possible, but you would.
It has to go through a process of being approved, though. It can't just be changed once it's implemented either.
So yeah, I mean, there are downfalls of having this, and we discussed this at the last public input session that currently it is unanimous approval, just like all other polling locations before every election cycle. When we set the election locations, they have to be unanimously approved by the election board, and that is currently still the same process. But I mean, you are right. The General Assembly has, on more than one occasion, tried to make it so that it is majority instead of unanimous. So currently, the legislation says 10,000, one vote location for every 10,000 voters.
And,
You guys fight out if you guys want, who's talking.
I think 44 is great. Do you know, were you saying if a future election board, wanted to change it, do you know if that change would have to be unanimous, or? Until
the state legislation changes it, it will be unanimous.
And any change that they make to the vote center plan, they can't just go out and change it. It has to be done at a public meeting, just like
Yeah, it
we're
has
doing
to-
now, with our public input and.
And it would have to be refiled with the state. I mean, you have to continue the
There's a
same.
process.
Yeah, you don't have to go through all the original, like, all the public input sessions, but everything would have to be changed in a public meeting. So no one could just do it behind closed doors or anything like that. They're gonna have to face the public.
And do you have monies appropriated already for the marketing campaign?
Yes. Mhm.
Jim had a question.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Absolutely. Mhm. Well, and again, this election board is very progressive. I mean, they are very innovative. A lot of times, we've had people from the general public, and they can't tell who is on what side of the aisle. And quite frankly, that's the way it should be. And so, this board is not looking at going with a minimum. We're looking at keeping it, as fair as we can. And what we have reduced in locations, we have changed in opportunity, where most of the locations that we have reduced were repetitive. It was a high school and a church across the street from the high school, or a fire station and a library across the street from that. I mean, there's just really no reason to have them across the street, because people don't understand, I live in this subdivision and here's a polling location, why do I have to go over here? I mean, it just doesn't make sense. So the ones that we have eliminated have been duplicative. Sorry, it gets a little hot. But we could go with the minimum, but there's just no reason for that in Porter County. We have a pretty sprawled out area, and we believe that the proposed locations are beneficial for everyone. But Tony, you're absolutely right. If the General Assembly changed it to majority over unanimous, and then, yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter what the election board or what, they can just do whatever they wanted at that time. So we want to do it the way we believe is right and just for everyone. And
There's a big push towards vote centers in general, to where they may make the whole state go to vote centers, whether you want to or not. They're trying to do away with precinct-based voting, and as you saw, there's 55 of the 92 counties are vote centers, so that's a huge push in the Secretary of State's office as far as vote centers go. So where we have control over it now, in the future, we don't know how much control you would have over it, I guess.
so we want to be proactive in the situation and do what we believe is right for Porter County. And if we set the stage of this is what's right for our county, you change it and you tell me how that's right. You tell me, like, we'll go with whatever the state makes us do, but we don't believe that's right. So we're going to show Porter County that we think this is right and just and beneficial and an opportunity for Porter County voters. And if it's the state's direction to change that, then they're going to have to take that up with Porter County voters. Yes?
Two questions. First, does this at all impact seniors and their ability to vote? My mother-in-law's in a home.
Well, seniors especially,
She votes, period.
right, they still have the travel board, they still have absentee voting, but this, they may be able to go to a location that's closer to where they are, instead of one that's mandated for them on election day.
Okay,
So it might change their immediate location, but it doesn't change, instead of,
Their access.
right, it doesn't change access.
If anything, they have better.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, travel board goes to all of the facilities, right now, so if that's how she votes, some people, they do go out and still cast their vote in person. So, it just, and again, if you typically take your mom to a certain location and she has to wait there for a long time, you have the ability to say, okay, let's go down the road. It's not safe to have you out in this cold, we're gonna go down the road and go to one that's less populated at that time.
And then the second question is if we're setting an expectation as to the way this should be, since we could apparently take this down to 17 for the entire county,
in the last,
Other than the savings in.
no, you know, and,
Not
no,
about
and
savings.
if we save, fantastic, that's a bonus. But we're not doing it for saving, we're doing it for access. So the ones that we have changed, we have added, some back that are in higher populated or more easily accessible areas. We're going to more public buildings, so we know that those public buildings are ADA accessible. We're going to high schools, so we know that they have longer, bigger gyms for more people to be able to stand in instead of having to stand outside. So the opportunity is still better with the locations that we've chosen, even though we went down. We're going to higher trafficked areas, if that makes sense. So we're putting one on Route 30, we're putting another one on 49, we're putting another one on 700, where
But we're removing one that's on the street corner of 4 other locations.
exactly. So Campbell, let's just talk
That's our
Campbell.
main- that's
Campbell
our-
had a
that's
whole
our
bunch,
main.
had like 5 of them down there. Now they're gonna have 2, I believe. One at Ben Franklin and one at the high school. We don't need the one across the street on the church, and we don't need one on the littler, in one of the smaller schools.
When we had it at 64 locations, that's when it was basically redundant because there was too many numbers for how many buildings we use. So we're not removing any of those 64 in an area and leaving it empty. We're just pulling some from an area that already has multiples.
So like Couts had 2,
Just
right.
redundant locations,
Yeah.
we didn't try to remove any that were, we tried to cover every single area. If the polling location was removed for a reason, it's like they said, it's because there was 5 within a block of each other. Or, you know, there was a, church across the street that was small, but hey, now we're using Willow Creek Middle School instead because it's a lot bigger.
Mhm.
So
Same thing
we
with
wanna-
Washington Township, we had the fire station, now we're moving across the street to the high school. So it's more beneficial, it can house more people, you can have more equipment in there, lines will be lower, and when you do have lines, there's a location for people to wait, instead of having to wait outside.
Hey, you said you'll answer.
So Porter County is obviously exploding in population, from my perspective.
Oh, absolutely.
How do you address that going forward as the fields across from my house disappear and turn into subdivisions?
Well, and that, part of that is, what makes vote centers optimal, is we can continue to add locations if we need to, or we can change them the same as what we have always. We just have a unanimous vote from the election board, and then we send it downstate. I believe it's South Bend that, formulated their plan in 2020 and already has like 4 or 5 amendments to it. It can be done, as we need, as we need to change it.
If we need to.
Right. So as we
Yeah,
see,
we can
okay,
definitely add.
We talked about going the other way.
no, we can add to.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, we can
I
add.
don't I don't really see us reducing it ever, but as you said, the county's growing, you've got Morgan Township, that's all fields, you have, Liberty, that's.
Pine
Right
Township
now,
too.
right now.
Liberty, yeah.
Pine
Well, right
Township.
now, but, you know, who knows 5 years from now what that's gonna look like? Who knows
Mhm.
next year what that's gonna look
Well,
like?
and in
It's
some
not
of the,
building it.
can you go back to the slide that has the locations on it? Right now, these
11?
locations are,
The computer's slow.
oh yeah, no, it's not 11,
Oh, no, it's not.
there you go, 7. Right now, just as you said, it's fields. So we can't have a location in a field, but we can have one in a clubhouse. So if, you know, if that's an option for us, we can put one in a grocery store, if we need to. I mean, we can put it anywhere, because as a vote center, you can vote anywhere. Yes?
Got 2 questions. One, poll workers can vote anywhere now, so we don't have to vote early.
Right?
Correct. You can vote at your
You can vote
election
while
day.
you're working.
Mhm, absolutely.
You can work at your polling location that wasn't your polling location before.
Yes.
And then, with you possibly eliminating some of the polling places, will that eliminate polling workers?
Not necessarily because of the increase in traffic, they just may be repositioned into different areas. Because we're still, you know, if your polling location could have this many people, and now you're at a polling location that has this many people, we're gonna need more clerks at the bigger location.
Yeah, we don't wanna put ourselves in any kind of predicament, where we don't have enough staff out there, so we're not really looking at, the cost savings and a reduction of staff. As Jessica said, if if we save money, great, if we don't, that's not our purpose. Our purpose is try to make it convenient and easy for the voters of the county. I don't really see us worrying about a reduction in staff. Like she said, people might be moved around, you might be a clerk, you might be a judge, you might just be somebody that's directing traffic now.
I'm
You
over-
guys fight it out again.
No, I'm over-
Yeah, I know. I just, rock, paper, scissors.
Right.
Have you seen any data or information from the one Indiana county that did go to vote centers and then scrapped it and went back to precinct voting?
I haven't-
Why they did that?
From my understanding, it didn't work for them. Which again, if it doesn't work for Porter County, we go back.
Weren't they a much smaller?
They were smaller,
It was a much smaller population.
but no, I haven't spoken directly to that clerk. It is on my list of things to do before this plan session is over, but with the holidays, it's hard to get a hold of people. But yes, it is on my list of people to connect with.
Will the, early vote plan change at all?
We're looking at adding locations for early vote. The emails actually went out today, looking to add one more Valpo and one more Portage location.
And the times change? I know that.
We can change the times every election.
Most, federal elections, we usually have late days on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but the election board votes on it for every election. But like she said, we can add Saturdays, take Saturdays away.
Well, yes, Jen?
I've been working early voting now for a number of years, and there's a small percentage of our voters that come in, can't see, can't hear, can't walk, can't handle technology, and these folks, I always encourage them to consider an absentee ballot at the time where they could vote at home. So in your marketplace, I think you should emphasize that possibility for
Yeah, I mean, definitely, we'll remember to include all voting options on the marketing plan, with absentee by mail being one for sure.
If-
lineup sounds terrible in a place like Hebron, where you only have 2 voting machines, and we've got a elderly husband and wife trying to hold up, and the line's way out the door. So,
We're seeing growth in it every year too. It's definitely, as you've seen, you've worked Hebron, so you've seen it go from 2 people
Yeah.
to 60 a day. So you've seen the
Used to
growth
bring
too.
it up to this next, now he doesn't get to read it.
Rich, did you have a question? No? Yes, you? You were just
Rich, of all people,
I
you
just saw
should
him going
tell
like
us.
this. I'm like,
Of all people, Rich should vouch for how much easier this will make our delivery process.
Rich is the
because-
superintendent of highway.
Yeah, well, and with the precinct-based election, we have to use the entire garage down there to line up our routes, so that this machine that is Boone 1 has to go on the truck at the very back because it's the last step. Now, we can go 20 machines on the truck, load them, done, go deliver.
Yep.
There's no rearranging, there's no organizing that, oh, somebody grabbed the wrong machine and put it in the wrong order, so now we have to pull the whole truck out again and reload it.
Yeah, I mean, we have,
Or lose a polling location and have to recode those.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we're very fortunate in Porter County to have the facilities in the highway department, at our disposal pretty much. They work with us and everything that we need, but moving to a plan like this would make their lives so much easier. I mean, we really, take over their staff.
For multiple
For,
days.
yeah, for weeks on end, we take over their staffs, and we're lucky to be able to do that, because that doesn't happen everywhere. But, again, if we lose a polling location, then they bring the truck back to us. They unload the entire truck, so that we can pull the machines off that we need, recode them, and then they load the machine all the way, they load, I mean, it's not little U-Hauls, it is full-size semi-trucks that they are then reloading and then parking back at a secure location.
Now we can
So-
just call and say, go to this church instead.
Right,
You don't have to come back here,
exactly.
we don't have to
We
unload
don't need to recode your machines, it's all done still. Yes, oh, we do have a question now.
That part won't change.
No, that part won't change, just not as
Just-
many of them.
Just the fact that we don't have to have a
You're not
route
gonna have to
order
have all those
anymore.
route orders.
Right.
We don't have to have your guys sit and wait until Route 2 is brought up. What?
You don't have
We
to,
will still be taking out every piece of equipment. And-
we're not taking as much as we normally
Correct, we won't have to take all the DS200s.
We're not positive yet if the truck number will change, because the places, we used to send all of our equipment out to 64 places, but now we're just gonna put more equipment at the 44. So we
Depends
won't,
on how we can fit in
yeah,
there.
we
Right.
won't have a huge downsize as far as our trucks, but the ease is,
Go back to us telling you how wonderful you are.
the ease is that we don't have to have 10 of your guys standing waiting for the next proper piece of equipment to come out.
They don't have to watch
Here's
the
30 of
labels,
them, take them all.
you know, when the labels fall off in the truck. You don't have to figure out which machine that used to go to and try to make it go back together
Or
again.
trying to play with the reverse order of what's the first step, what goes on the truck first, what goes
Yeah.
on the truck last.
I mean, there's a lot of
And then making it
logistics
fit.
that
And then
affect
them
not,
yelling at us and us yelling at them.
yeah, there's a lot of logistics behind the scene that goes into, making the elections work for the voters. So that's why we have people from all different walks up here, 'cause this does affect a lot of people. Anyone else? Election board? Anything? We do have two of our election board members.
I think we would see more than 55 counties having already gone to vote center if they had the financial capabilities of getting the equipment that Jessica shared with you. We already have, that allows us to move to this without another huge expenditure of money. So I think in other places in the state, they're handcuffed by lack of funds to make the move.
We just happen to already have the whole setup
Right.
that is capable of
Those
the
investments have
transition.
been made over time already for us.
So basically, we're allowing the taxpayers to get the most bang for the buck that we already spent.
The sentiment on the election board is on early voting, probably increase the number of days and also maybe some extra hours on a few days and maybe an extra Saturday here or there and some extra locations. We want to take some pressure off of these locations because in the last few election cycles, between 40 and 45% of our people have early voted. So we're gonna take advantage of the vote-mobile, we're gonna take advantage of the extra early voting and stuff in different locations and everything, and add to the existing locations that already stand. So we wanna get as many people voted early, so like I said, so it goes a lot smoother for these people, especially as this thing is being rolled out.
Council members, any questions? You good? You good?
You two in the third row?
Okay. Okay, I mean, I don't have anything else, if you guys don't have anything else, if you guys wanna take a look at a bigger map and see the different locations.